Go ahead.
Hey Don, it's Ken Chang from New York Times. I guess my first question is this your last space flight?
It's say again. I'm having a little trouble with the audio.
Sorry. Is this your last space flight?
No, I like to say this is my next space flight.
Okay. Do you have more science demonstrations planned?
Of course, I would not fly into space without doing a science and/or educational demonstrations in my off-duty time.
Okay. I actually want to go back to your first space flight, and this was probably the hardest day of your career. Can you describe what happened on February 1st, 2003 for you?
First, when we found out General Howell got us on the space to ground and said they'd lost the crew. And it took me a while to figure out, what do you mean you lose the crew? They're just, I was thinking loss of radio comm or something. And then when it finally became apparent that it was like loss of vehicle and crew, first it was shock. And then it was like, well, we've got parachutes, we've got escape means, maybe there's still some crew possibility of crew survivability, and then the reality of the situation sunk in. Space travel in today's era has a certain measure of risk, and you just have to be willing to accept that.
But you were really stranded on ISS because your ride for going back to Earth wasn't going to come. I mean, you had the Soyuz, but you had to wait till someone else came up to replace you.
Yes, it's just sort of normal to be on space station, and you will always have a vehicle in which to return to Earth in, and we wanted to do a crew handover, because if we left a space station, there wouldn't be any crew on there. So we extended our mission until the next crew could come up.
So how long was it that you didn't know how long you were going to stay in space?
As soon as we found out that the shuttle had been lost, we knew, because of the accident investigation and figuring out what went wrong, it would be months and months and months before shuttles would fly again. So we knew right away that shuttles were not going to fly up to take us home. So we knew that we had our Soyuz there, and that we would be coming home in our Soyuz, and our mission would be extended to sort of the pull date of Soyuzes. They have orbital lifetimes, and it was extended to the point where its orbital lifetime was such that it was time to fly home. And then the next Soyuz flew up, and I think we had six or 8 days of crew handover before we, in turn, returned to Earth.
Were there any concerns about food, water, air, and supplies because you had to expand the mission?
For me, both of my space station missions have been subjected to shortages. Expedition 6, because of Columbia, we were immediately on a water shortage and a food shortage and a clothing shortage. And we extended the best we could these supplies and our usage rates. And then on Expedition 3031, we had a food shortage because of launch vehicles being lost, cargo vehicles burning up, and we lost food. We had a bunch of food with failed packaging. We had to throw away 25% of our food because of failed packaging.
Okay.
And then a bunch of food was lost in packing on an HTV vehicle. So we had a food ration shortage on Expedition 3031.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to talk with you.
Okay.
Hi, Don. It's Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com. Good to talk to you again.
It's always good to talk to you folks. You know that.
So, will we see you drinking from your zero-G coffee cup as you developed on this mission? And do you have any new inventions or ideas you want to test this time around?
Yes to both of those questions. Of course, we're going to be using the zero-G space cup, particularly for events that you would normally have a celebration if you did something outstanding on the ground. If we come in from a EVA or you fly the robotic arm, you work together as a crew. It's nice to have a bit of a celebration with tea or coffee, and we could put them in the zero-G cups and drink in a manner that civilization is used to in terms of celebrating with a cup on the ground.
When I spoke to the members of Crew 9, they credited you with the design of the Expedition 72 patch, as I see you're wearing. It is striking for its simplicity, being only a rendering of the ISS. Can you share your thoughts behind the design?
Yes, I can. One, I really like simplicity in these kinds of emblems. I'm not for one with all kinds of real fancy lacing and stitching and everything. And I like the Expedition 1 patch. So I told the NASA graphic designer to make an Expedition 1 type patch, make it round instead of rectangular, but bring the configuration, a space station, up to date. And he did that, Sean Collins did, and he even put the IROSA solar panel upgrades on the profile of station in their proper location. So I like the simplicity of this patch.
Great. Knowing your interest in photography, there was recent news about the Sphere in Las Vegas launching the Big Sky camera to the ISS. Will you have a chance to use it?
Yes, I've gone through special training with the Sphere camera people, and we've kind of go back and forth in terms of here's their idea of what they want, but then I could talk about maybe some of the seeds and concepts that we should check out on station with this camera and within its realm of resolution and light gathering ability. So I'm looking forward to operating the Sphere camera, and it will be interesting to see what kind of footage we can shoot on space station.
Last question. You'll be reunited on orbit with your previous crewmate, Oleg Kononenko, as he wraps up his fifth spaceflight totaling more than 1,000 days in space. As you embark on your fourth mission with 370 days to your credit, can you imagine and would you want to spend that much time away from Earth?
Oh, I would love to spend as much time as possible in space, either on a space station platform orbiting Earth or going elsewhere. So people have asked me if this is my last flight, and I tell them, no, this is my next flight. So who knows what the future might bring.
Great. And I'll sneak in one more. How do you expect the space station to be different from the last time you were there?
I've asked that question with both Mike Barrett and Tracy Caldwell Dyson, because both of them have been over 10 years since the last time they've been on station. And I was surprised at their answer. They said station is cleaner, more organized, and the software tools we have for stowage and for doing inventory management and even operating our days through the scheduled timeline, these tools, these software tools are so much more efficient than what we've had in the past. They were impressed with the efficiencies of operation on space station compared to how it was 10, 12, and in some cases 14 years ago.
Thank you.
Hi, Don. How are you?
I am doing fine. Am I speaking with Elizabeth?
No, this is Brittany, actually.
Okay, well, it's good to be talking to you, Brittany.
Yes, same here. I'll dive right in because I know I don't have a whole lot of time with you. But I know that you have had numerous trips to space, so why go back now?
Oh, because space is my home away from home.
Um, well, what is it that makes it home for you? You know, when are you going back and what is the mission at this time? How will home feel different?
I will let you know how station feels different this time after I get there and come back. Each time you go into space, it's a little different. Things have changed since your last visit. I'm like a cowboy that wants to be on a horse out in the range. I'm an astronaut that needs to be sitting on a rocket and flying in space.
I love that. What would you say you're looking to learn this time? What are you hoping? You know, obviously, no, you haven't been yet, but what are you looking for?
Well, there's this dynamic that's hard to explain when you live and work with your crew on space station. And The crew numbers this time are going to be larger than in the past. At the minimum, it's going to be 7. At the maximum, it's going to be 12. And to live and work with a group of dynamic people, dedicated people like this is really a pleasure. And then the mission, carrying out the mission, a part of it is taking care of station and keeping it in working order. Part of it is doing scientific research on any number of delightful topics. And then we do engineering research, which typically doesn't get talked about a lot, but this is very much research, but for engineering equipment that helps make the spacecrafts work, particularly for future spacecraft and for future operations.
That is absolutely important. I know that you are 69, which I'm sure is a magical, wonderful age. What can NASA learn from seasoned astronauts? You know, what do the more mature spacemen and women have to teach the agency?
One thing that we do is we can kind of act as mentors to, them rookies that come in the door with a bright smile on their face. And we've got a mentorship program where rookies get assigned to one of us experienced people, and we kind of pull them around by the ear and help them get oriented towards what it means to be a good astronaut. So that's one of our roles that we do. And I do want to point out that personally, I don't feel a day over 69.
Well, you're doing much more than I could ever do at 35. So, yeah, you are amazing. I know you are known for taking some spectacular photos in space. Can you talk about what goes into capturing that and what are some of your favorites or your highlights?
Well, one of my specialties is imagery at nighttime. The nighttime Earth is very special to me. I'm an amateur astronomer, and looking at Earth at night, and it's not just looking at Earth, it's looking at the Earth, the horizon, the atmosphere on edge, and all the natural phenomenology that happens from the viewpoint of being in orbit. And I'm really looking forward to advancing the imagery of nighttime. And I've actually talked NASA into flying a number of new lenses highly optimized for nighttime imagery. And they just arrived on station with NG-21. So I'm looking forward to putting these nighttime optimized lenses to use.
Very cool. Don, thank you so much. I can't believe our time has flown like a light year. That's a bad space joke, but thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me this morning.
You take care. It's always good to talk to you folks.
Same.
Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. This is Peter Warren with the Houston Chronicle. Why is now the right time for you to go back to space after more than a decade away?
The short answer to that question is we have some form of a line in the astronaut office, and my turn showed up at the head of the line, and here I am training in space to fly back to the space station.
What are some of the biggest changes that have happened in those 12 years away that you've had to get readjusted to?
Space station has a new module or two added to it, mostly in the Russian segment. And I've talked to the crew that's currently on orbit. Some of the crew members have been 10 to 14 years since their last mission, and asked them what has changed. And they've said that its station is cleaner, more organized, and the software tools that we have are more effective and allow the crew to work more efficiently. For example, our scheduling tool and our storage tool and our inventory management tools, these things have been improved so that the crews can actually work more efficiently than, say, we were able to do 10 to 14 years ago.
How exciting is that for you to be able to potentially do a lot more than you might have done in previous missions?
Yeah, I'm really excited about returning to station, and I plan to tackle the mission work as scheduled, and then in off-duty time we can look out the window and I could work on some of my photography. So I'm really looking forward to getting back to station and doing this mission with the cadre of crew that I'm going to be on station with.
Yeah. What excites you most about the stuff you'll be doing, both as part of the mission and in your off time?
There's a couple of really neat programmatic experiments going on station right now. One of them has to do with nanoparticles. They're called Janus particles, named after the Greek god of gates. And these are particles that are nanotubes, and they act like synthetic stem cells. And the experiment is to see if you could make these in a way that will help regenerate tissue that normally doesn't get regenerated, like cartilage in joints. So I'm really looking forward to working on that experiment. And then for off-duty time when you relax, I'm looking forward to doing more imagery at nighttime for Earth and the near-Earth vicinity.
Have you missed being up in space?
Oh, I miss being up in space every day. I feel like the equivalent of a cowboy that should be out on the range riding a horse, and instead I'm flying a desk. And it's nice to be getting back on the horse and going out in the range again.
Mm-hmm. When you get back, do you think it'll be sort of like going back to an old vacation spot, going back to an old home, going back to an old office? How do you imagine it's going to feel?
It's going to be going back to a complicated vehicle that's in a harsh environment, and there's a certain level of seriousness about realizing where you are, and you have this complex vehicle that actually keeps you alive, and you need to take care of the vehicle, and then you focus on whatever the mission work is in terms of the scientific research and the engineering research.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me, and have fun up in space.
I plan to live this mission to the full extent of what is possible. Thank you for being there. I like talking to you folks.
Thank you.
Hi, Don. It's Elizabeth Howell from space.com. Thanks for taking a few minutes.
Oh, my pleasure, Elizabeth.
So I know that it's been about 12 years since you flew into space, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about if you've been missing it. I know that there's always something to do if you're an astronaut, but how much do you miss space flight?
Oh, I miss space flight every single day. It's like my being should be in space. Some people are born to be cowboys and ride a horse. I'm born to ride a rocket and be in space. So I'm really looking forward to going back.
I'm glad to hear that. And what sort of duties have you been working on in between in terms of mission support or other activities?
Oh, I've done a slew of different activities. They tend to change. The astronaut office will change your technical job about once every 2 years. So I've supported other people's space station missions, and I was working on Artemis program. I was working on Lunar Lander and the Gateway station at the time I was assigned to this flight.
Okay. And then what differences did you find in the Soyuz training between your launch in 2012 and your current launch?
Soyuz is a very stable vehicle, meaning it doesn't change a lot. There are small engineering improvements that that make the operation easier for the crew, but it's basically the same vehicle. and the training has a lot of similarities. Some of my instructors I've had since 1999. So it's almost like going back to family when I come to Star City to train to fly in Soyuz.
That's wonderful. And that actually kind of brings me on to your next question. So given that this is going to be, I think, your fourth mission in space, how are you building on the experience of the last 3 times as an astronaut to be continuing to grow as a person and as an astronaut while you're working up there?
I think it just could be, you could just call it experience. I know what kind of food, when asked what kind of menu would you like, I know the kind of food that doesn't taste very good, I don't want that. And then I know the kind of food that tastes yummy on station. And I know what kind of clothing feels good. And so I just know what to ask for in terms of crew equipment and crew support. And I also know how to best operate efficiently on station when it comes time to do your daily tasking.
And in terms of the photography that I know you're going to be doing up there, how have you been training yourself or sort of increasing your experience in photography during your gap of time between those 2 last missions?
Oh, the way you do that is you're always taking photographs, and NASA has the training camera equipment that we can check out and use. And we've got pretty sophisticated professional level cameras, and you can't have a training, 1 or 2 hours of training, and then 2 years later, pick that camera up and be an expert at using it. You need to use it, at least for me, on a weekly basis. So I seem to always have camera equipment checked out from NASA, and I'm always using it. I'll set it up in my backyard for doing nighttime astrophotography. We've got a number of new lenses on orbit that are optimized for nighttime imagery. I'm really looking forward to getting back on station and taking nighttime imagery to a new level.
And just quickly for the last question, are there any targets in particular or types of photographs you're hoping to do besides obviously the night photography?
One is images, solar imagery. We've got full aperture solar filters for our telephoto lenses, which are actually small astronomy telescopes. And it allows you to do imagery of the sun. And the sun is very active now. It's near solar max. And then imagery, particularly cities at night. We've got another lens that's optimized for doing city at nighttime imagery, and I'm thinking it should open up the quality of the nighttime imagery that we could do from space station. So I'm really looking forward to both of those individual activities, along with whatever other imagery that just comes to mind, because you are there and you can.
Thank you very, very much for your time, and good luck. Have fun up there.
I sure will. And you folks take care. Bye now.
Bye.
Don, how are you? What a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to be talking with you, Manuel.
Thank you. You know, I cover the space program in Spanish, based here in Cape Canaveral, and it's a pleasure. I admire your work. You know, a few months back, I'm going to ask you the same question I did to Tracy Caldwell Dyson. You're flying to space again after 12 years. She did it after 14 years. And I asked her, what is it that the first thing you're going to do as soon as Hatcher opened, besides hugging your crewmates? And she told me, I'm going directly to the cupola. Are you going to do the same thing?
Maybe, maybe not. When Tracy launched, she ended up doing the 2-day profile. I'm hoping to be able to do the 2-orbit profile. And after the hatches are open and we've done all our congratulatory hugs of our crewmates, I'm probably going to make a beeline straight for the toilet. And then the cupola.
Toilet is important. I give you that, yes. How does it feel? You're going back after 12 years. Do you have thoughts every time you see images of the space station or rotation crews over the years and says, oh, I imagine how things are going over there, how things have changed? Do you think about that a lot?
I've been working the space station program, helping other crews technically on their mission over the last 12 years. Also working on the Artemis program for the lunar lander and Gateway. And when I see the imagery coming down from space station and I'm doing my ground job, I can't help but think, man, I want to go back there. I need to go back there. And now I am so excited that I have a chance to go back to space station after 12 years. And I'm looking forward to doing the mission work and then being able to do a few things during our off-duty time.
You know, I'm also very happy you're going back. I'm as a photographer myself, based here in Cape Canaveral, I'm always setting remotes in the launch pads and trying to capture the space missions the best as I could. And you know, sometimes I imagine the photos before I take them. So I plan them in my mind. So I wonder if you do the same, if you already have in mind what photographs are you going to take in your next mission, or it's a combination of going with the flow because always things happens in a second. So how is that you are planning your photography for your next mission?
You are right in that there are specific instances of photography that I want to capture, and I'm planning and scheming how best to set our new camera systems up in order to capture what I want. But there's another category of photography where you are there and you can, and the environment presents something to you that you've never thought of before or you've never seen before, and you want to capture that. And so I'm planning to do both. A few standard scenes or scenes that I want to try to capture, and then take advantage of whatever observations I can make simply because I am there.
You, besides all your science objectives and doing experiments, you set yourself with photography objectives as well? So I need to accomplish this?
Yes and no. My photographic objectives are all done during off-duty time. And so you have to be able to do the mission work first, and then during off-duty time, that's when you take your photography. So I have to be flexible about what kind of photography and how much time I'm going to have for doing photography outside of the normal work environment.
Right. Last question, Don, and I appreciate your time. Canon or Nikon?
NASA has standard equipment that they've been flying for years, and currently We have Nikon equipment. We've got a number of different makes of lenses on orbit. We've got Nikon lenses. We have Sigma lenses. We have Ari Zeiss lenses now on orbit, and that's the kind of equipment that we currently are using on space station.
Don, thank you so much, and congratulations for going back to space. And I hope you have a successful mission.
I'm excited about being back home.
Safe trip.
Bye now.
Bye.
Hello, Don. This is Will Robinson-Smith with Spaceflight Now. How are you, sir?
I am doing fine, Will. Good to be talking to you.
Likewise. Want to start off with a question that, a lot of people have been talking about your photography, but want to point back to a tweet that you sent out last night noting that you took the 1 millionth photo on the ISS back in 2012. With NASA flying new lenses up for nighttime photography, how are you thinking about your legacy with space photography, and what in particular phenomena are you hoping to capture at nighttime this time around?
One aspect about the number of pictures, I want to do a good job of photography and capturing the seeds. I'm not there to try to see who can take the greatest number of photos. I want to make sure that I capture interesting phenomenon, particularly at nighttime. One phenomenon that has recently come about that I really want to see if I can capture, and that is this atmospheric phenomenon typically associated with aurora called STEVE, capitals, all of them. It's an acronym, and it's an elusive thing that maybe 2017 people started to find images with this STEVE, a glowing phenomenon in the atmosphere. And I've looked back at a lot of my expedition, 31 images, to see if I inadvertently captured STEVE. And so far I have not seen any imagery with STEVE. both from my mission and from missions since then. So I'm hoping to really see if I can capture a large scale view of the Steve phenomena.
Well, best of luck in making that happen this time around. Given that you've been a member of the astronaut corps for now nearly 30 years and flying for the last 20, in your mind, what's been the most profound change regarding human spaceflight?
The most profound change, I think, is the frequency that we are, the frequency and number of people that are flying in space right now. Partly due to our international partners, partly due to the commercial providers that we now have, and then the private astronauts that are flying up and down into space. I think space is a hopping place right now. It is starting to open up like the Wild West. And I think we are going to see an incredible expansion of humans living and working in an orbital environment, and then eventually beyond Earth. And this is a direction I think is fantastic for humanity.
And you know, the last time I saw you was during the rollout of the SLS rocket and of the Artemis 1 launch. Can you talk about some of the work you've been doing connected to the human landing system and other parts of Artemis?
I was assigned, before this flight, I was assigned as a technical astronaut working on the Gateway program and on the lunar lander. And as such, we would go to engineering meetings where they were talking about the requirements, like should we put a window in the spacecraft or should we not have any windows? You know, these kinds of things. And if we do put a window in, how many windows, how big should it be? That's just one example of the kind of fingerprints that astronauts put on the engineering behind these spacecraft when they are in the design phase.
And lastly, you know, you've been describing space as kind of your happy place, and just in your last round of conversations, you called it home. What is it about space that brings you such joy, Don?
It's just some factor within me that I come alive when I'm in orbit. Not that I'm no less alive when I'm on the surface of Earth, but there's just a certain facet of when I go into space that just fundamentally is on resonance with my soul. And I feel extremely fortunate and am pleased and excited that I have another opportunity to fly into space. Best
of luck, sir. Thank you for your time.
You